Welcome to a midday MLS transfers and MLS news. I guess it's kind of like an emergency show, though we planned it yesterday. But there's a lot to talk about, a lot of things, a lot of moving parts in Major League Soccer. A lot of teams making moves with the transfer window. I don't want to say coming to a close, but it is just right around the corner closing. And I think it closes towards the end of August. But most teams are making all their moves at this time. There will be some last minute deals, but most of the moves are in the middle of the transfer window, not at the end. But Inter Miami, LAFC, a couple other teams making moves, trying to make that final push before the end of the MLS season to try to win MLS Cup. And we have a lot to talk about with Inter Miami. They're making the most moves, and we're going to start with them today. But before we do, guys, make sure you like the stream down below. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We are 6 subscribers away from 9K. Let's try to hit 9K today. And hit the little bell notification so you never miss any of my videos, and share this video with a friend. So let's go ahead and get into it. Mr. says, hi, Will. Cynical Tube says, bye-bye, Dumbo. Yeah, so yesterday, Cesar Luis Merlot reported that Federico Redondo is the new reinforcement of Elche. Inter Miami sold half of his transfer rights for $2.5 million, and once he passes the medical exam, he will sign his contract. Now, Federico Redondo was bought last year by Inter Miami for around, I think it was $8 to $9 million, and he has been a huge disappointment for Inter Miami thus far. He never really lived up to the U22 status that he is, right? Because U22 is kind of like a DP, but you have to be under 22 and you can only make a certain amount of money. But they spend a pretty expensive fee for him, $8 million. Like, he's expected to contribute and be a key player for Inter Miami. The problem with his signing is that him and Sergio Busquets essentially played the same exact position. So he was having to play out of position. He was having to play more as I would say an 8, a box-to-box midfielder instead of a defensive midfielder, which is not his game. And he never really fit in with Inter Miami. So his signing has been a huge disappointment, as has several of Inter Miami's U22s, which we'll talk about another one here in a few minutes. But this really makes sense. And they also get they're going to have 50% of his rights. Inter Miami is. So they're taking a haircut. They are losing money. They are losing money on this deal compared to what they paid, but they have potential to get it back if he performs well in La Liga at Elche. And like I said, this offers or opens up a U22 spot for Inter Miami, and this team desperately needs some young blood to rejuvenate and help this team out to make this push, because they are just way too old. Way too old. Cynical Tube says he was not worth it. Guess Who FC says, what's brother really like your content? LAFC fan here, stoked about Son joining the team. Yeah, we'll talk about some maybe reinforcements he might get here in a little bit. Cynical Tube says 7 million. I thought it was like 8 to 9. Mark says window closes in 8. Okay, so it closes sooner than I thought. I remember it used to be till the end of August, but I guess it closes sooner. Guess Who FC says high expectations for Son, can be a strong team offensively. The drive he will bring to the rest of the squad make the run. Talk about Alvarez. He's next, or he'll be here. We'll talk about Toto Alvarez here in a little bit. Mr. says they need to get rid of Allende next. He is bad. Well, there's rumors they might get rid of him next, Mr. There is rumors that they might terminate the loan for Tadio Allende. So we'll see if that happens. T-Look says, what is going on with Red Bulls and Timo Werner? We'll look at that too. I'll add that to the list, because I was going to talk about a few things and see what you guys want to talk about transfer-wise. We'll add that to the list. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But so they open up a U22, and also I have to point out another reason why they were able to move off of Federico Redondo is because Yannick Bright has played incredible for Inter Miami. He has been absolutely incredible for Inter Miami, and it has made a couple players, and more specifically, Federico Redondo, expendable. So Yannick Bright is going to be a starter. Rodrigo De Paul is going to be a starter. Sergio Busquets is going to be a starter, I would say. Well, maybe it depends, I guess, what formation they roll out with. Hopefully, they go back to a 4-3-3. But we know that Javier Mascherano likes his 4-4-2, which doesn't think it's a bad fit for this team. Either way, Yannick Bright essentially took Federico Redondo's spot. That is why he's expendable. That is why he is sold. Inter Miami opens up a very, very important U22 spot. Now, the next thing, if you follow Inter Miami, they have a huge, huge hole in the back line. They've been trying to find a pair the last 2 years who that can reinforce this back line. They've signed David Martinez, Freire, Toto Alvarez 2 years ago. They've tried Noah Allen at center back, which he was decent at, up until a certain point. They signed Maxi Falcone. Nothing has really worked out. There hasn't been a good tandem, if we're being honest. There has not been a tandem that has been good for Inter Miami. And in MLS, you have to have a decent center back pairing if you want to win MLS Cup, or that they can at least play decent for a certain run. Okay? So, this was shared yesterday by German Garcia Grova. Now, some of this is incorrect, and I'll explain in a little bit, but he reported Gonzalo Piovi has very advanced negotiations to strengthen Inter Miami, meaning that he's likely to sign with them. The club is working with Cruz Azul on a deal valued around $7 million. The central defender gave the okay to play on Messi's team. Now, if you are familiar with MLS rules, this is a red flag from the start. If you're not, I'll explain why. Inter Miami already have 3 DPs. You're only allotted 3 DPs, meaning that you can pay them whatever you want. The transfer fee can be whatever it is, whatever you want, without it counting, or you can spend whatever you want on the transfer fee for 3 players, or their salaries can be whatever you want for 3 players. So Inter Miami cannot buy him for $7 million because that would make him a DP. They have no DP spots left. So that's why the information is inaccurate. Now, if Inter Miami do buy him for $7 million, there's some serious, serious red flags, and I'm going to question what's going on here, which I don't think Inter Miami's cheating, but if they are able to buy him for $7 million, then we have to start asking questions. How the hell are they buying him if they have no DP spots available? So that's a red flag. That's already misinformation, or that's not accurate. But a lot of people reporting that they are going to sign him. So I'm going to be curious to see how they work this out. Is there going to be a new mechanism? Is he going to be on loan? Or is the fee half or 1/3 of what they're reporting? I think Transfer Market only had him valued at like 2.8 mil. He's 31 years old. I really seriously doubt he's going to cost $7 million. And keep in mind, this is the same team that the Seattle Sounders just beat 7-0. 7-0, and he was a starting center back. So I doubt they're spending $7 million on him. Mr. asked, what happened to Bartra? I had heard that he wanted too much money and they couldn't agree to terms on a deal. That's what I heard. That's what I heard about that. But yes, what does someone say about Bartra? Bartra, Piovi, Maxi Alba would potentially. I think they're out on Bartra. This is going to be the replacement for Bartra. This is the guy that they've shifted to get. But the only thing what I'm saying is the $7 million is inaccurate. They can't do that. They can't do that. And if someone were to ask, like, well, can he be a U22? He's 31. He can't be a U22 either. So we'll have to keep an eye on how they make this. They make this work. But they're making moves to make room for this. And real quick, I want to touch on this. I wasn't going to spend too much time. They also traded Drake Callender, who was their starting goalkeeper in 2023, who was their starting goalkeeper in 2024. They just recently traded him to Charlotte FC to open up more financial, a little bit of cap relief, and probably got something back in return. I don't know exactly what they got back in return. That detail hasn't been revealed yet, but they do have some cap relief. I think Drake Callender was making close to $400,000 or $500,000 a year. So that helps the team out, especially a guy who they had no plans for in the future. He was riding the bench. I think he was technically the 4th string goalkeeper at this point. They had 3 guys ahead of him in Ustari, Rocco, and William Yarbrough. So they got some financial relief. We'll see what happens with that. But they're making moves like crazy. And it leads me to my last Inter Miami bit of news. We haven't really heard anything about who they're targeting right now. There were some reports early on in the window of who they might want, but nothing concrete. But I'm assuming we're going to start hearing some stuff. Now, they're also trying to, Mr. says Callender wasn't doing anything in Miami. He was just rotting on the bench. XD Golden says Piovi wasn't in the lineup for Cruz Azul. Okay, well, at least that's good. That's good. But there is another piece of news. Another center back, another U22. This is the final piece of news for Inter Miami. So Geraldo said that reports that Real Zaragoza has its sights set on Argentine center back Tomas Toto Alvarez from Inter Miami. He can also play as defensive midfielder. He was an under-20 international with Argentina. So Toto Alvarez was one of the U22 signings Inter Miami signed in 2023 when they first got Messi, and he was supposed to be a linchpin. He was supposed to be someone that could be consistently good in the back on the in the defense, and hopefully develop into something where they could sell him for a pretty big substantial fee. But he's been a huge disappointment since he's been at MLS. He didn't work under Tata Martino. He hasn't worked under Javier Mascherano. I think Javier Mascherano doesn't like him at all, to be honest with you. At least that's what it seems, because he barely plays. And he just makes way too many boneheaded decisions and mistakes. He's a little bit too aggressive, where he just is a yellow card machine. And it just hasn't worked out. It's time to move on. It's been 2 years, and there has been no growth. If anything, there's been regression. So they're going to look to sell him or loan him to Real Zaragoza, which I have to mention, Real Zaragoza is also either he is the majority owner or he owns a half ownership of it, is Jorge Mas, who also owns Inter Miami. So there's people saying, well, is that like not a conflict of interest, but is that illegal? Is that against the rules? Yes, we've seen this many times. For New York City FC, when they try to get rid of Mix Diskerud, which is, I'm sure, a name you guys haven't heard in a long time, they loaned him to Manchester City or sold him to Manchester City to get his deal off the books. Or they did some weird maneuvering to give New York City FC some cap relief when he played for the team and he wasn't doing well. So yes, this has been done before. It can be done. And so getting rid of Toto Alvarez would be a huge move for Inter Miami. That would give them 2 U22 spots open. 2 U22 spots. And the cool thing about U22 spots, just real quick, is you can spend whatever you want on the fee, but the player can't make more than, I think, $600K, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but I think that the player cannot make more than $600K, but you can spend whatever you want on the fee. So Inter Miami have 2 spots where they can really sign some difference makers. And if you sign a player, a U22, they just have to be under 22 when you sign them, and they can be signed on until they're 25 years old. The last year of their deal has to be when they're 25. That's the last year they can play for you. Once they hit after they're 25, when they're 26 or older, the deal's off. They can't be a U22 anymore. Mr. says Alvarez is a walking yellow card waiting to happen. He is. He's a liability. He's a huge liability for Inter Miami. So it makes sense why they would get rid of him. It makes sense. Rocky says Timbers getting Matias Rojas from River Plate. Really? Is that true? I didn't see anything about that. If that's true, Matias Rojas was incredible for Inter Miami last year. Let me see. I'm looking that up real quick. Wow. Okay, I'll add that to the slate. There's just so much going on right now. And Matias Rojas was incredible for Inter Miami. Incredible. You can see that they definitely miss him. Let's see. Okay, let's move on to LAFC, because there's a lot of LAFC stuff going on as well. LAFC's kind of stolen the headlines here lately in MLS. But before we get into that, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are 6 subscribers away from 9,000. So close to hitting 9K. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Let's hit 9K. We're actually on pace. We're on pace to hit 10,000 by the end of August, just because of the momentum we've seen and we've had with this channel. Biggest MLS content channel that there is, and it's because of your guys' support that we are able to make that claim. So subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the little bell notification so you never miss a video. And I got a video coming out tomorrow too that I think you guys will like. But let's move on to LAFC. So obviously, like I said, they've stolen the headlines. They've with the Sun news, right? They just made a big splash. MLS record transfer fee for Sun, and it looks like they're not done yet because they have a DP spot open. So reports of there's been a couple people report this, but it's the Territorio MLS, I think says I think that's who reported it originally. LAFC are interested in signing the attacking midfielder Raphael Veiga from Palmeiras. The MLS club has contacted Alviverde to understand the values and negotiate model. Well, I'm assuming they're reaching out to see what the cost would be and if it would be feasible, if it'd be worth it. What would it costs to get Raphael Veiga? Now, my good friend, Tactical Manager, is a Palmeiras fan. And he had responded to my post about this, saying that he was on the bench, not really playing, and he hadn't been good. Speaking of Raphael Veiga. So, he's kind of down on him. He doesn't think he's that good. Tac doesn't. And I wouldn't write him off just because he's not playing at Palmeiras. He is 30 years old. His transfer value is estimated to be around 15 million. So I don't know exactly what LAFC would have to spend. I don't know if they would sell him for 15 million or if they could maybe get a better deal. But it looks like Son Heung-min is going to play striker the rest of the season for LAFC. That would be my preference to sign a DP as a striker. Obviously, Denny Bonga's on the left. They need somebody who can feed them. They need a playmaker. And Raphael Veiga does check that box. Now, I'm assuming that LAFC probably have several guys that they're looking at who they could potentially sign. But Raphael Veiga would be a great signing for LAFC. And I'll say this, and there's one other player I want to talk about a little bit who they might try to get. But if LAFC can get a number 10, they could be the team this year. They could be the team. Like they're starting to look, we're starting to get into that scary territory, scary hours of this team is going to be difficult. This team is going to be difficult. So LAFC is really making a run for it. They're trying to get a number 10. Raphael Veiga, we'll see if they can get something done. And the other player I was going to mention who a lot of people had been talking about on Twitter and they had been linked with him before is Gio Reyna. Gio Reyna was supposed to go to Parma and Serie A, but that still hasn't materialized. That still hasn't gotten done. So the question is he going to rot on Dortmund's bench for another year? Who knows? I don't know if he's going to get a move. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. But Gio Reyna had been linked with LAFC earlier in this transfer window. And I think that LAFC need to try to explore that move again because Gio Reyna needs to play. Gio Reyna is good. And I think that if they sign a player like Gio Reyna and he can get back to his previous form of what we saw maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this team could be scary. And it would be good for all parties involved. I personally would rather have Gio Reyna than Raphael Veiga, not because Gio Reyna is better right now, but because Gio Reyna could be better. His potential, his ceiling is way higher. I think that that's something they definitely need to explore. They need to see if they can get back into negotiations, back in the room with Gio Reyna and see if they can make that work. We'll see if they can. So speaking of the Timbers, let's move on to the Timbers. Fabrizio Romano reported this about 9 days ago. MLS side Portland Timbers agreed to €7 million euro deal to sign Christopher Velde as a new DP from Olympiacos. So the Timbers are the Timbers have always spent money. That's like they've never been cheap. Merritt Paulson has always been one to do what he needs to do to try to make his team, even though he's controversial and he's obviously made a lot of mistakes. And, he is, and I think this actually was announced today. Yeah, it was. Okay, so this actually was announced officially today. So it's not a rumor anymore. They officially signed him. The Timbers did. But Merritt Paulson's always been willing to spend, and they signed a winger who, I think he's pretty good. They just sold Marino to, who was it? They sold him to a Brazilian side. I can't remember who it was. They sold him for a pretty decent fee. But this, we'll see that Portland has been sneaky good this year. And they're spending money, and they're a team that I think you have to keep an eye on. They're a team that I think that could be one who, maybe makes a deep playoff run, and nobody's talking about them. But Christopher Velde, they signed for 7 million euros, and it was a signing, like I said, that just kind of went under the radar. He played at Olympiacos, and I think the Greek league is pretty good. He had 4 goals in 21 appearances, and then he played in the Polish league, if I'm not mistaken. He had 18 goals and 72 appearances as a winger. I think technically he is going to be a replacement for Jonathan Rodriguez because he's hurt. And if a player's hurt for the year, you can take their DP status and sign another guy. If that player, it's really weird, but essentially they're going to take Jonathan Rodriguez's DP spot because he's hurt, and they're going to make this guy their DP because obviously his salary is too high. And looks like he signed a 3.5-year deal. He plays for the Norwegian national team, and he hasn't made an appearance in like 2 years. So we'll see what happens with him. We'll see if he can. If he can make an impact with the Timbers. And also, someone mentioned this earlier. The Timbers are also talking with Matias Rojas, who's a former Inter Miami midfielder, who I think Inter Miami misses desperately. Rocky says sold to Fluminense. That's right. Yes. So Matias Rojas, former Inter Miami midfielder, attacking midfielder, can play on the wing too. They're saying the Timbers have initiated talks with Matias Rojas. Now, Matias Rojas did not stay with Inter Miami because they couldn't agree to terms on a salary. That he wanted way too much money, so he went to River Plate. And he was good, man. He was really good. You can tell Inter Miami desperately miss him in 2025. They miss him. They don't have a player off the bench like Matias Rojas. So if the Timbers are able to get him, that would be a hell of a signing. I think that'd be a hell of a signing. I'm telling you, Phil Neville, I'm not a big fan of Phil Neville, but I think he's actually doing a somewhat decent job with the Timbers. I think he's doing a somewhat decent job, and I think that they're a sneaky team. They're a sneaky team. They're 6th right now in the Western Conference. They're going to make the playoffs in 2025. And I just think that they could be a thorn in the side of a team. They could be now. They have struggled to score goals. They're not doing anything overwhelming in 2025. They only have 33 goals, and they actually have a minus goal difference. They're a couple playoff teams have them. They're one of 3 playoff teams in the Western Conference with a minus goal difference. So they need to have some guys who can start scoring. They need to have some guys that can start scoring. So they're bringing in some reinforcements. We'll see what happens. We'll see what they can do. Now, I also wanted to touch on one other thing. I wanted to say that I'm very disappointed in some MLS teams. Oh, Mr. Mister says, I'd personally go for Gio as long as it wasn't a DP. I think it would be a DP deal, honestly. I think it would. But I'm disappointed in MLS teams because here we are, August 13th, 2025, and there's 8 days of the window open, and some teams we haven't heard a peep. Not a single thing. Not a single word about any rumors, any news, nothing about any signings. And that's disappointing because some of these teams could definitely make some moves. Some of these teams, like no team in MLS is perfect, obviously, right? No team is just like, oh, yeah, we're good to go. We're going to win MLS Cup. Like even Inter Miami. Inter Miami is They still could be right up there in the first place hunt after they play their 3 games. I mean, honestly, if they win their 3 games, they'd be tied for first place. They're still making reinforcements. They're not content. They're not content with what they're doing right now. There are several teams that need to be making moves to try to improve their roster, especially if they want to make the playoffs. And they're not doing anything. They're sitting on their hands. I mean, Chicago, right? There's rumors Chicago was trying to target like a DP number 6. The guy from I think it was the Norwegian league, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Maybe it was the Swedish league. Either way, they could use a couple reinforcements if they really want to make this. I mean, because look, they're tied. They could miss the playoffs. They need to make some reinforcements if they want to even make it. New York Red Bulls, Timo Werner. I don't know if Timo Werner is going to come to New York Red Bulls. There's some a couple hiccups. I think they wanted too much money for him, or he wanted too much money, and I don't think he's really keen on making a move to MLS at 31 years old. So I don't know I think that deal's in jeopardy. I don't think it's going to happen at this point. I wish it would, because we've seen what he was capable of at one time. I think he scored 30 goals for. I want to say he scored 30 goals for Leipzig one season, if I'm not mistaken. And I can't remember what year it was, but then it's just been downhill ever since then. But there's just so many teams on the cusp of being. I mean, look at the Sounders. The Sounders are a team where you can see if they have potential. And they need a striker really bad. And I don't know if they're going to make any moves. I don't know for sure if they're going to make any moves. And they need to. They need to. Like I said, no team is perfect. San Diego FC in the driver's seat, right? They have a DP spot open. They said they probably won't fill that DP spot. They probably won't fill that DP spot in the in this window, which is sad because they're in first place. They could finish the first place in the league and win the Supporter Shield. That could happen. But they're content with their roster, which is bad. You should never be content with your roster. LAFC, 5th place. They signed Sonny. They're trying to sign a DP number 10. They're trying. They're trying to push the envelope. They're trying to be better. They're trying to actually make a run for the playoff for the MLS Cup. Same thing with the Timbers, like we said. They're trying to sign Matias Rojas. They just signed the Christopher guy from Olympiacos. They're trying. What is Austin doing? What is Colorado doing? Colorado just sold Jordi Mihalovic to Toronto FC for $9 million. I think they made like 1 or 2 moves, but nothing that's going to actually help them. Nothing that's actually going to help them. And Dallas just sold Lucho Acosta. We didn't even talk about that. They just sold Lucho Acosta. Who's the replacement for him? Are they just conceding? I mean, they got the stadium under construction. Are they just conceding and saying the season's over with? So there's a lot of teams that are just way too complacent, that don't do what they need to do. And that's disgusting. I hate teams that are not ambitious. I despise teams who are not ambitious, or at least trying. You don't have to go sign a $20 million striker. You don't have to go sign a $15 million number 10, but at least do something. Try to push the league forward. Stop being cheap. Stop sitting on your hands. No team is perfect regardless. San Diego FC, like I said, is at the top of the table. They're not perfect. They can make moves. They need to make moves if they want to stay at the top of the table. Vancouver signed Thomas Muller. Now, I don't know if he's going to be good, but they're trying to make moves. They're trying to be competitive. They're trying to push. They're trying to get that extra edge to win MLS Cup in 2025. So, and the Union just signed Alowski, I think is his name, the guy from San Diego FC who scored 10 goals in his first 14 games. They're trying at least something. Cincinnati had a really good offseason when they signed Evander and they signed Kevin Danke. I would like to see them make a couple more reinforcements if they have the room to do it. So we'll see what happens. Mr. says it usually a similar thing in Europe, and there's a mad scramble in the last week, which peaks on deadline day. T Look says, will RSL try to shop Luna? Last I heard about Luna was RSL wanted too much money for him, and they were that was the sticking point. Like, they just wanted too much money. They want like $15 million for him, I think, something like that. Rue Shady says some people are happy just being a talent farm, but you have Mexico right there. You have to prove that has a proven career doing so. Yeah. Alan says LAFC only signed Son because Club World Cup money. I don't know about that, but I mean, it probably didn't hurt. Do you guys have any questions? Anything that you want to ask me about the transfer window before we wrap it up? I think I got like maybe 5 more minutes if you have any questions. And also, like I said, make sure you like the stream down below. Let's see what we have here. Let's see how many subs we are away. We're 2 subs away, 2 subscribers away from hitting 9K. 2 subscribers away from hitting 9K. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that little bell notification. We got a video tomorrow that's going to be interesting where I talk a little bit about MLS having an incredible summer window because of some of the signings. So that's going to be an interesting video. I'm going to drop that tomorrow around like 6 p.m. And we're going to do a watch along too for the LAFC match with Sonny starting his first game. We'll probably do a live watch along for that. Also too, Charlotte need a striker. They desperately need a striker. I think they have a DP spot open. No, they don't. They don't have a DP spot because Pep Biel, I think, is a DP. Zaha. They still need a striker. They have I know they have some U22 spots. They need a striker desperately. I know they signed one today, but it's the Australian. I'm not sold on that. Michael Pelly says, unfortunately, what DC United is doing is holding down the bottom of the Eastern Conference, which is a shame for Benteke. Yeah, they're terrible. They should sell the team. Hopefully, I think they might. Montreal's right there too. These, and it's so funny. Real quick, just want to touch on this. The funniest thing is that they promote parity. They promote parity in MLS, right? They say it's a close league that anybody can win. Does this look close to you? 51 points top of the Eastern Conference, 19, 22. Like, this is not even close. This is not parity. This is mediocrity. This is holding teams back. This is the thing. Some of these teams, now Atlanta's just ran poorly, but like Montreal and DC United, they say, oh, we can't change the rules because then there'll be too much of a gap. The teams won't be able to compete. These teams already aren't competing. They're already not spending. So it's hurting these teams when these teams would still be in the same position they're at no matter what the spending is, they'd be in the same position. Now, the Galaxy had injuries, so like they're kind of an outlier. They're willing to spend. But St. Louis is cheap. They don't spend money on players. They don't. They don't spend money on any of their players like other teams should. 21 points. Sporting Kansas City, cheap. 24 points. Some of these teams are just cheap. They're not going to spend regardless of what if there's any financial restrictions or if they increase the cap, it's going to be the same. So like I say, it's not parity. It's forced mediocrity. Okay, we got some questions. Let's see. Let's see. What is DC United doing? Nothing. They're doing nothing. Rue Shady says, when the transfer window end. I think it ends in I think someone said in 8 days, like 21st of August. Mr. says, like I said the other day, someone needs to inquire about Laporte, and if he just goes to Atletico, someone should ask about Clement. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if they do. Vice Rosa says Dybala might go to DC United since he wore a jersey and shorts on his post before. DC United would never spend money to get Dybala, sadly. Vice Rosa says maybe a tease after Roma. MD says, bro, not getting Bartra. Is that good? Getting Piovi. I don't know if he is going to be good. I don't know. Bartra, I think, would have been at least he had experience with his team, but they got to stop signing guys who are over 35 years old. They just got to start signing. They have to start signing younger players. MD says, bro, not getting Bartra. Is Piovi good for my I think he will be good. Sorry, I just read the same one. Michael Pelly says the Sounders have become a very conservative team when it comes to signings. Very disappointing. They are very cheap. They are very, very cheap. sadly. So I'm not sure what changed. I mean, I think the ownership, like the majority ownership changed, but that's really sad for the fans. That's really sad for the fans. Ruche says another thing I've noticed is that Mexico is becoming a rehab and retraining league. Many players have come to Mexico and enjoyed a second wind in their European careers. That's true. Angus says St. Louis often goes after Bundesliga 2 players. Yeah, that's got to change. It's got to change. T Look says, can MLS force teams to have a minimum payroll? They can. I don't know if they will. Hopefully that changes in the next CBA, which is up in after the 2027 season. MD says not getting Bartra, getting yeah, I think you've asked that 5 times. Mark Lind says, sadly in MLS, the goal is largely 9th place, not first. That's their parity. I agree. They definitely cater to the bottom teams instead of the top teams. Mr. Mister says the U.S. window closes next Thursday. Francisco Garcia says Miami swaps under 25s for over 30s. Great strategy. Yeah, they spend weight. They got to get some youth in this team. They got to get some youth in this team. But yeah, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this stream. Like I said, I got a video dropping tomorrow for the talking about how MLS had a great summer. So check that out tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And we are doing a live watch along for the Sunny First Start. So hope to see you guys there. Hope you guys have a great day. Make sure you like the stream down below if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel, 2 away from 9K. Let's hit 9K after the stream. Hit the little bell notification so you never miss a video. And until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.